25 China's PLA warplanes intruded into Taiwan's ADIZ on Monday, marking its largest incursion in the time period. According to Taiwan's Defense Ministry, the PLA warplanes, 14 Jian-16 fighter jets, 4 Jian-10s, 4 H-6K bombers, 2 Y-8 anti-submarine warfare planes and 1 KJ-500 airborne early warning and control aircraft entered the island's southwest zone on Monday. Taiwan's Air Force sent its air patrol force to shadow them, issued radio warnings and deployed missiles to monitor their movements, the ministry said in a statement late Monday night. Air Defense Identification Zone (ADIZ) helps countries detect incursions into their airspace. It is an early warning system that any aircraft entering the zone should duly report the route and purpose to the host nation, otherwise considered as an airspace breach. Taiwan reported that PLA warplanes flew over Taiwan's ADIZ on a daily basis over the past few months. Early on March 26, China's 20 PLA warplanes violated Taiwan's ADIZ. China has always considered Taiwan as a breakaway province, while Taiwan consider it as an independent nation. Wu Qian, spokesperson of China's Ministry of National Defense, on January 28 warned the people wanting Taiwan independence and had said that those who play with fire will set themselves on fire, and seeking Taiwan independence means nothing but war. The recent intrusions came after US Secretary of State Antony Blinken warned Beijing against invading Taiwan.
What we've seen and what is a real concern to us is increasingly aggressive actions by the government in Beijing directed at Taiwan, raising tensions in the Straits.
Blinken continued that Washington has a long-standing commitment under the Taiwan Relations Act to ensure that the island has the ability to defend itself and to assure that the US sustains peace and security in the Western Pacific.
It would be a serious mistake for anyone to try to change the existing status quo by force.
The first agreement for Coast Guard cooperation under the Biden administration was signed between Washington and Taipei after Beijing passed a new law permitting its Coast Guard to fire on foreign ships. Professors from Cornell University in New York have rejected a proposed joint degree program bankrolled directly by the Chinese Communist government, with a 39-16 vote, as Beijing suppresses academic freedom and commits human rights abuses. The Chinese Ministry of Education was supposed to fund the partnership. Professor Richard Bensell said that Cornell had abdicated its moral responsibility by refusing to recognize the atrocities committed by the communist Chinese regime. The central administration is much more revenue conscious, much more materialistic than it was 5 years ago. It basically, in many ways, has just abandoned some of the moral and ethical concerns that a great university should have, Bensell told the Washington Free Beacon. However, some Cornell professors do not recognize Communist China's persecution of Uyghurs as genocide. An open letter signed by 100 academics and college professors called for more transparency in university dealings with Communist China. The US Senate approved a bill which would increase the oversight of Confucius Institutes in America. Republican Senator John Kennedy said the Confucius Institutes are under the control of the CCP. The bill would allow colleges to restore freedom of thought on the campuses by giving them full control over the institutes. If any colleges or universities do not comply with the new oversight and regulations, they would be cut off from federal funding. William Burns, Biden's CIA director, said in a statement, "My advice for any institutions in the United States, including academic institutions, is to be extraordinarily careful of what the motives are for a variety of institutions like that, and to be very careful in engaging them." The regulators in China on Saturday imposed a record fine of 18.2 billion yuan, $2.8 billion on e-commerce giant Alibaba after a months-long antitrust investigation. According to CGTN report, the State Administration for Market Regulation, SAMR, said the group had abused its dominant market position and also used market forces, platform rules, data algorithms and other technical means to ensure the implementation of the exclusive dealing agreement. Xinhua News Agency said the size of the penalty was determined after regulators decided to fine Alibaba 4% of its 2019 sales of 455.7 billion yuan. The SAMR in December started an antitrust investigation weeks after a record 37 billion IPO from the Ant Group was suspended at the last minute and after Alibaba's high-profile co-founder Jack Ma criticised China's leading regulators that they were stifling innovation. The rules include stop price fixing, predatory pricing and unreasonable trading conditions against restricting technologies and using data and algorithms to manipulate the market. The SAMR said Alibaba's 1 out of 2 requirement, which required users of the platform to not use rival merchants' services, had hurt consumers' interests, as this hinders competition in China's services market involving online retail platforms, impedes the free flow of goods, services and resources, and infringes the legitimate rights and interests of merchants on the platform as well as the interests of consumers. Alibaba accepts the penalty with sincerity and will ensure its compliance with determination, said the Hangzhou-based in a statement. To serve its responsibility to society, Alibaba will operate in accordance with the law with the utmost diligence, continue to strengthen its compliance systems, and build on growth through innovation. Former Secretary of State Michael Pompeo delivered a clarion call to Americans to boycott the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics, which he labelled the Genocide Olympics because of the Chinese Communist Party's handling of Uyghur Muslim minorities in the country and its clampdown on free speech. During the opening session of the Richard Nixon Foundation's Nixon Seminar that Pompeo co-chaired with former National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, the former Secretary of State was forthright with his comments against the Winter Olympics organised by the CCP regime when he said, "I don't think we should have any American go and participate in the Genocide Olympics." He also mentioned the perils to US athletes in subjecting themselves to the excessively stringent system upheld by the CCP, where breaking Chinese laws might land them in prison. Maintaining the similar critical tone as Pompeo, O'Brien lashed out at major US companies such as Coca-Cola, who were appalled by Georgia's new election legislation and supported the hurried relocation of the All-Star Game, yet failed to remark on the terrifying brutalities occurring under the Chinese regime and continue to back the forthcoming Olympics in Beijing. He said he observed China's deteriorating behaviour during his tenure as a former hostage envoy in the Trump administration. China had earned a reputation akin to Iran, with the escalation of foreign nationals being apprehended. Criticism against Beijing as host of the 2022 Olympic Games intensified strongly during the last months, with several politicians, renowned personalities and various institutions started to make open their position of rejection.